Hello, my mathematicians. Today we're going to be looking at properties, and by the end of the lesson, you should be able to answer this essential question: how can you use properties of operations to solve problems? So you can use the properties of operations to help you evaluate numerical expressions more easily. We have three properties of addition. We have the commutative property of addition, which says if the order of addends changes, the sum stays the same. We have the associative property of addition, which says if the grouping of addends changes, the sum stays the same. And then we have the identity property of addition, which says the sum of any number and 0 is that number. Secondly, we have three properties of multiplication. We have the commutative property of multiplication, which says if the order of the factors changes, the product stays the same. We have the associative property of multiplication, which says if the grouping of factors changes, the product stays the same. Then we have the identity property of multiplication. The product of any number and 1 is that number. So let's go ahead and look at this first problem. You can follow along on page 17 of lesson 1.3. So we have the table shows the number of bones in several parts of the human body. What is the total number of bones in the ribs, the skull, and the spine? To find the sum of addends using mental math, you can use the commutative and associative properties. So we're trying to find 24 plus 28 plus 26. So first we start by using the commutative property because we are changing the order. So the commutative property. So this is going to be 28 plus 24 plus 26. Then we're going to use the associative property to group the addends because we are changing our grouping. So we added parentheses. So now we need to know what 24 plus 26 is. So 4 plus 6 is going to be 10. So we have 10 plus 20 plus 20. It's going to be 50. So then 28 plus 50, 78. So there are 78 bones in the ribs and the skull and the spine. And let's go ahead and flip the page to page 18. And first we're going to look at the distributive property. So we're multiplying a sum by a number is the same as multiplying each addend by the number and then adding the products. So here we have an example. The distributive property can also be used with multiplication and subtraction. For example, 2 times the quantity 10 minus 8 equals the quantity 2 times 10 minus the quantity 2 times 8. So we're going to use the distributive property in order to find the product. So using addition, 8 times 59 equals the same thing as 8 times 50 plus 9. So then we have 8 times 50 and 8 times 9. Well, I know that if I do 8 times 5, that gives me 40. Then I add another 0. And 8 times 9 is 72. And 400 plus 72 is 472. Another way that we can do this problem is by using subtraction. So instead of doing 59, we can do 60 minus 1. And then we're going to do 8 times 60 and 8 times 1. So we have 8 times 6 is 48 plus a 0, 480. And 8 times 1 is 8. 480 minus 8, 472. So we're going to look then at example 2, where it says complete the equation and tell what property you used. Well, 23 times what equals 23? Well, 1. This is the identity property of multiplication. And here we have 45 times 15 equals 15 times what? Well, They're changing the order, so this would be 47. This is commutative. Property of multiplication. Okay. This is just a quick preview of the lesson that you're going to be looking at tomorrow. If you would rate your level of understanding using fists to 5, and have a good night.